Yes, I truly need psychological support, because what I have lived through and witnessed is far from ordinary, and learning to coexist with these memories has been anything but easy. Not everyone believes my story, and science has proven unable to offer any comfort. My only source of hope lies in Christ. My name is Marcus Wellington, and I am 46 years old. 5 weeks ago, I died for a full 4 days after a horrific accident on a frozen highway in Alaska. During those 4 days of clinical death, I experienced the most extraordinary and terrifying events of my life. I met Jesus Christ face to face, and he revealed 3 catastrophic events that will devastate North America in the coming 3 years. Doctors have no explanation for my survival. My family is still grappling with what happened to me, and the visions I received haunt me nightly. I wake in cold sweats, reliving every vivid detail of what I saw. I didn't choose this responsibility, nor did I ask for this burden. But I cannot remain silent about what was revealed. For 32 years, I've worked as a trucker on the highways of Alaska and the northern states, hauling cargo from Anchorage to Minneapolis, from Fairbanks to Denver. I'm not what anyone would call devout. I rarely attended church or joined prayer groups, but I always believed something greater exists above us, something that watches over honest people working hard for their families. I live alone in a modest cabin near Fairbanks, Alaska. My beloved wife Linda passed away 8 years ago from complications with cancer, and my 3 grown children live in other states with their own families. Most nights I watch television as I worry about the world, international conflicts, economic crises, politicians squabbling while regular people bear the cost. Sometimes, driving solo across Alaska's frozen wilderness, I see the distant lights of tiny towns and reflect on how fragile our civilization really is, how everything we call normal and safe could unravel much faster than we imagine. My job is delivering essential supplies, so I know firsthand how much we rely on intricate systems working seamlessly. On Monday, March 3rd, 2026, I started a routine run, delivering medicine from Anchorage to a hospital in Chicago. The load was crucial: insulin and heart medication that would save lives. I had been on the road for 14 straight days, making multiple deliveries, sleeping in my truck to save money and meet tight deadlines. The weather was brutal. An Arctic front had swept down, bringing minus 45 degrees Celsius temperatures and slicing winds that shook my cab even when parked. The weather service warned of an approaching ice storm, but I had to deliver that load. Lives depended on those medicines. It was my 10th straight night sleeping in the cab. My body was exhausted, my mind clouded from lack of rest and the constant stress of dangerous driving. I should have stopped at a motel, rested properly, but deadlines were pressing, and I couldn't let the hospital down. On Tuesday, March 4th, I woke before dawn to continue the trip. The highway was covered with a thin, nearly invisible layer of black ice. I drove cautiously, very slowly. I knew this stretch well, between Fairbanks and the Canadian border. At 7:17 a.m., in a remote section of the highway about 90 kilometers from Tok, Alaska, everything changed in an instant. An adult caribou suddenly appeared in front of me, emerging from the pre-dawn mist like an apparition. Instinctively, I turned the wheel left to avoid it. What happened next was a chain of events that would alter the course of my life forever. The truck skidded on the black ice and lost all traction. I felt the weight of the trailer pulling the cab toward the right shoulder. I tried to correct the path, but it was already too late. The entire rig began to roll, tumbling several times before landing upside down in a deep ditch beside the highway. My last memory is the sound of metal twisting, glass shattering, and then absolute silence. After that, blackout. Later, paramedics told me I'd been found unconscious, pinned inside the wreckage, with severe head injuries and multiple trauma throughout my body. A passing driver found me about 50 minutes after the accident and called emergency services. It took rescue crews more than 3 hours to extract me from the wreck and stabilize me enough for transport to the Fairbanks Regional Hospital. My body fought for life as the medics worked furiously. In the hospital, doctors worked desperately to keep me alive. Dr. James Patterson, the lead neurosurgeon, later explained to my family that I'd suffered severe brain trauma, internal bleeding, and multiple fractures. My heart stopped completely for 28 minutes during emergency surgery, and though they restarted my heartbeat, my brain showed no signs of activity. For a full 4 days, I stayed clinically dead. Machines artificially sustained my bodily functions. All neurological tests showed total brain death. Doctors were clear. There was no hope of recovery. It was just a matter of time before my life support would be stopped. My children, Robert, Michael, and Jennifer, traveled from Oregon, Texas, and Florida, respectively, to say their goodbyes and make the hard decision to withdraw support. Doctors waited for them to arrive before officially pronouncing my death and beginning the appropriate protocols. But for those 4 days of clinical death, I was not simply absent. I was living through the most extraordinary and transformative experience of my life, an experience that would shatter my understanding of reality and give me a mission I never could have imagined. The moment my heart stopped in surgery, I felt myself pulled out of my body. No pain, no fear. Instead, I felt freedom and an incredible lightness, like shedding an invisible weight I'd carried all my life. I floated above the operating table, watching the doctors laboring over my lifeless body. Every detail was crystal clear. The tense faces, bloody gloves, monitors showing flat lines where there should have been life. Yet I felt entirely at peace, surrounded by a serenity deeper than any human understanding. Then I began to move away from that scene, gently guided from chaos and suffering into a golden, warm light. The light didn't hurt my eyes. Instead, it warmed my soul. It was a radiance that radiated pure love, absolute acceptance, peace beyond comprehension. As I drew nearer, the light intensified but never overwhelmed. It wrapped around me like the most loving embrace I had ever felt. And then I saw him. Jesus Christ stood before me, not as depicted in church paintings or movies, but more real, more present, more loving than any artistic image could capture. His presence radiated authority, but it was a comforting, gentle power. His eyes contained the wisdom of the universe and an infinite tenderness. "Marcus," he spoke, his voice resonating through my entire being, warm honey flowing into my soul. "My faithful servant, you have served my children well for many years." I tried to reply, but all that came were tears. Tears of overwhelming gratitude, of relief. These were not tears of sadness, but of such profound joy my soul could barely hold it. In his presence, all the years of loneliness after Linda's death, the cold nights in the truck cab, all the moments wondering if my life had any real purpose. Suddenly it all made sense. despite my failings. His eyes showed only unconditional love. I began to understand that there was something sacred in all that honest work, in keeping supply chains running so families could get what they needed. "But I must show you something very important, Marcus," Jesus said, now solemn. "Extraordinary events are approaching that will test the faith of my people as never before. You must see in detail what is coming, so you can prepare my people with specific instructions." Then we stood atop a great mountain, overlooking all of North America. It was like watching from space, with every detail visible. The cities glittering, highways busy, millions unaware of what was coming. "Marcus, what you're about to witness are 3 periods of darkness that will strike this land. Each will last exactly 3 days and nights. Each will test whether my people trust me or rely only on their own strength and technology. And Marcus, the first event begins in just 8 months. My blood ran cold. 8 months meant it would happen this year. November 15th, 2026, Jesus said gravely. A day meant for winter preparation will become literally the darkest 3 days in North America's history. As we watched, the perspective shifted to bustling cities during a regular November day. Families getting ready for the holidays, children in parks, shoppers going about their routine. In one moment, normal life. The next, complete darkness. Cars stalled instantly, not just losing power, but their electronics fried beyond repair. Modern vehicles became useless hunks in seconds. Traffic lights went out. Cell phones died. The modern world vanished in a blink. But Jesus showed me what made me most anxious. Within 6 hours of the blackout, true panic began. Not the kind seen in storms, when people expect the power back soon, but a full existential terror when it was clear nothing worked. Not even old cars without computers. I saw a man trying to start a 1975 vehicle, but it too wouldn't run. It was as if technology itself had been erased. Hospitals descended into chaos as backup generators failed. Patients in ICU died as life support shut down. Elderly people reliant on home medical devices were left helpless. But I also saw something beautiful amid the chaos. One small church in Wisconsin, whose congregation had heeded my warnings and prepared well. They'd stored supplies not only for themselves, but to serve the entire surrounding community. They organized teams to check on the elderly, deliver supplies, and give medical aid when hospitals failed. "How do they still have supplies when all else is gone?" I asked. "Because they listened and obeyed the warnings you gave them," Jesus answered. "Preparation isn't just stockpiling for yourself, but getting ready to serve others in crisis. See how they become my hands and feet in the darkness. But Marcus, this is just the beginning. In big cities, people will grow desperate, realizing this isn't a typical blackout easily fixed. Stores will be overrun. People will fight for the last supplies. Scenes like war zones will erupt in downtown Detroit. Gangs roaming, smashing windows, looting anything they can carry. But not pure evil, desperation. Families with starving children, elderly needing medicine, parents willing to do anything to keep their loved ones alive. The thin layer of civilization collapsed in mere hours when help wasn't coming. Police and military were just as crippled as everyone else. No radios, no vehicles, no way to coordinate. For 3 full days, North America reverted to a pre-industrial age, but without any preparation or skills from prior generations. Then, Jesus showed me something even more disturbing. The second period of darkness will arrive July 12th, 2027, exactly 8 months after the first. This time, it won't be natural. America's enemies strike when the grid is still vulnerable from November's disaster. This blackout is different, and in some ways even more terrifying. Instead of natural electromagnetic pulses, I watched as malicious computer codes infiltrated every system repaired since the first blackout. Not only did they shut things down again, but they corrupted software and data, making quick recovery impossible. Cyber warfare, combined with physical sabotage at an unprecedented scale. Explosions at power plants, communications towers destroyed, coordinated attacks on food distribution. The attackers exploited every vulnerability discovered before. Military forces couldn't maintain order. No radio, no computers, no ability to coordinate. Society itself started to unravel. Yet even here I saw pockets of hope. Communities that learned from the first disaster were doing more than surviving. They thrived. Churches prepared in advance turned into centers of stability and care. "This is my true church," said Jesus proudly. "Not those who talk about faith on Sundays, but those who act in faith when real trials come." Watch how these believers have become entirely self-sufficient. I saw communities with solar systems shielded against EMPs. They grew food, preserved meat, crafted basic medicines, and cared for the ill without modern technology. Even more, they set up leadership structures based on biblical principles. But Marcus, the third event, will be stronger than the first two, as coordinated strikes hit every major city at once. I witnessed scenes that felt like the end of the world. People freezing to death in northern cities in February. In southern areas, others dying of thirst with water pumps knocked out. Hospitals became morgues. Pharmacies were raided by desperate people seeking insulin, heart medication, other life-saving drugs. Mothers holding dead babies for lack of formula or medicine. February 28th, 2028. The final blackout. Only communities who prepared for years would survive intact. But Jesus emphasized that physical readiness was only half the answer. Spiritual preparation matters more. People must get right with me now, not wait for crisis. My true church will shine like beacons in the dark during these times. But many who call themselves Christians will learn their faith was shallow when it truly mattered. Marcus, I'm sending you back to warn my people. Those with ears will listen. But how will I convince them? I asked. Jesus smiled with tender sadness. Marcus, you're not responsible for convincing anyone. You're tasked to deliver the message faithfully. I will bring understanding to those whose hearts are ready. Your role is to speak. Their response is between them and me. Remember this, Marcus. Not all who claim to follow me will pay attention. Many are too comfortable, too reliant on their own easy lives, technology, or pride. Some will call you a false prophet. Don't let that discourage you. Noah was ridiculed while building the ark. The prophets of old were rejected by their own people. You are no different. Speak the truth with love, always, without compromising. He explained exactly what I should tell them. First, these events are warnings, not punishments. God is letting humanity see how fragile the dependence on technology really is, to turn hearts back to Him before it's too late. Second, preparation must be both collective and individual. Families trying to survive alone will fail. Only communities working together, sharing resources and skills, can weather 3 separate periods of utter darkness. Third, practical skills matter as much as supplies. Learn now how to live without electricity, how to grow food, preserve meat, treat basic illnesses, repair things without electric tools. Fourth, spiritual leadership will be critical. Communities need calm, biblically grounded leaders who make wise decisions and keep hope alive, even in the darkest circumstances. Fifth, forgiveness and unity are essential. Old disputes and divisions must be resolved now, because there will be no time for personal drama during crisis. Divided communities will fall apart, chasing limited resources. The holy presence gradually faded, the golden light dimming as I gently returned to my broken body. The next thing I recall is waking up in Fairbanks ICU, my eyes opening, and I sobbed, not in pain, but for the joy of being alive and deep sorrow at leaving that glorious presence. A nurse checking my vitals gasped when she saw me awake. Minutes later, doctors flooded my room, frantic, shining lights in my eyes, asking questions, taking blood pressure, utterly bewildered, taking notes, whispering among themselves. Within 2 hours, my children arrived, having driven through the night, prepared to say farewell and disconnect the machines. Instead, they found me sitting up, fully awake, eager to speak. "Dad," Jennifer cried, hugging me gingerly, "the doctors said you were gone." "Your brain didn't respond for 4 days. How are you awake, talking?" I immediately began recounting my experience, meeting Jesus, seeing the visions of the 3 blackouts. At first they thought I suffered brain damage, but as I kept describing specific details, exact dates, precise places, they realized I was entirely lucid. Dr. Patterson confessed he had no medical explanation. By scientific standards, I should be dead or permanently vegetative. The fact that I am fully functional, with no detectable neurological damage, defies everything we know about head trauma and clinical death. Within a week, my story was spreading among the local Christian community. Within a month, it reached Christian radio, YouTube channels, faith-based sites nationwide. Some believed immediately and started preparing. Others dismissed me as delusional. But something remarkable unfolded. Those who took the warning seriously formed preparation groups. Churches began storing supplies not just for their congregations, but for their communities. Christian farms coordinated with urban churches, creating food networks functional without modern technology. Christian medical professionals taught basic first aid and emergency medical care. Now, as I share my testimony, only 5 months remain until the first period of darkness. Time is running out fast. Start with basics. Stockpile at least 4 months' worth of food and water per person in your home. Build relationships with neighbors. This month, learn practical skills. Food preservation, basic medical care, gardening, simple repairs. Find a faith-focused community of believers who are preparing. Practice living without electricity until October. Complete all your physical preparations by then. Focus more on spiritual than physical readiness. Pray earnestly. Read scripture daily. Forgive those who have hurt you and resolve old conflicts. Form dedicated prayer groups to prepare for these trials. The first darkness begins at 2:33 a.m. Pacific Time on November 15th, 2026. The second at midnight Eastern Time on July 12th, 2027. The third starts February 28th, 2028. Between now and then is your window. Prepare body and spirit. This window won't stay open forever. Don't let hesitation stop you. Take this seriously now. It could be your lifeline, and for those you love. The time for preparation is ending fast.